and welcome to our podcast, There's a Ghost in My Closet. I'm Alice, and I'm joined with my other host, Carly.
Hello. Now, join us while we dive into what wants to remain deep inside the closet. It still works.
Anyway, how are you doing this week?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Good, but terrible. It just depends.
You're going to feel better once you explain what we're talking about this week because I have a feeling that I think some of these other people had it a little bit worse. Just by a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about something that I've been really, really excited to plan. I planned this. This was an episode I've had in mind for a while since we created the podcast. I think the second episode I texted Carly and I was like, "We need to talk about this. This is something that we absolutely have to have on our episode queue. Like this is a necessity for this podcast for it to be exciting enough for me to do it." But we are going to be talking about the mythological and romantic gothic side of vampires.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Vampire. I love doing the Transylvanian accent. It's so much fun. But anyway, do you have anything you would like to add before we get started?
Not really.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty. And we did get, just want to let you guys know that we did get some listener stories, or at least one or two, that we will be adding shortly. Probably not in this episode because we are still organizing everything and getting them set up. But by next episode and the next, we will definitely have them out. I know a couple of you reached out to us. Thank you for that. We will definitely get those mixed in with the queue as we go. But I feel like this is an episode that this is an episode of what I need to do for so long. So excited.
I mean, I've seen that video you sent me on TikTok about the lady explaining about the vampire.
Yeah, I did. It's really fascinating. I'm such a huge vampire nerd. I watched Twilight when I was 9. Vampire Diaries is one of my favorite
I mean, I can't say
favorite
much.
shows
I can't say
ever.
much. I loved
Damn
Twilight
yourself,
when I was
George.
younger. I mean, at first when I first watched that, I was like, no, Stefan all the way. And then when, she got with Damon and stuff, I was mad. I was like, ugh. But the next time I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, go to Damon.
No, because I think that was everyone's first time watching Vampire Diaries. They were like, no, Stefan all the way. Stefan needs to be with Lena. Stefan's the guy. And then they rewatch it and they're like, Damon.
Bad boys.
With the dark hair and the leather. I feel like that's everyone's experience. A lot of like my mom has a crush on Stefan, but her guy's Elijah.
Paul Wesley's name. Stefan is played by Paul Wesley, and then Ian Somerhalder plays Salvatore.
By the way, for my birthday, my mom got me a Salvatore Brothers bourbon bottle.
That's
I'm really excited. But anyway,
you better share.
So what'd you get me for my birthday?
I ain't telling you.
Bruh.
You're gonna like it.
I probably will, but like.
But it's something to keep you hydrated.
Is it a water bottle?
I'm not telling you.
Oh my god.
I'm not telling you. Huh? Caleb knows what it is.
What?
I showed him what it was.
It's okay. I'm seeing him tonight. I'll harass him about it.
Don't.
Make sure to leave your guys' opinions and beliefs on vampires in the comments because we would love to hear about them. This is a controversial, not controversial, but this is like a debate.
Yeah.
A debate podcast. I want you guys to engage.
Now, if you want to leave us a, personal experience or, want to recommend something for an episode, you can message us on our Instagram, which is There's a Ghost in My Closet.
I really got to put our handles in the descriptions.
Or you can put it on the screen, like right here maybe.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then our Gmail. There's a Ghost in My Closet.
No
spacing.
No spacing. There's a ghost in my closet.
At gmail.com. Yeah. But she'll show it right here.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
You can tell we've been friends for
too long.
Until we go to our grave.
Oh, that's so scary. Until we become a part of the undead.
Maybe we'll come.
Anyway.
Maybe we'll become vampires ourselves.
This is going to be kind of a long episode. I feel like I have a lot of information. So,
yeah.
I say grab your garlic and emotional support crucifix because we're about to explore the many species, legends, and terrifying variations of vampires that wish to remain in the closet. So, I am going to be talking about the history and the different types of vampires and kind of what a vampire is. I'm going to be describing them and kind of going into the basics, and then she is going to be going into some of the more personal experiences and
but also
reported sightings, any sort of vampire experience. A lot of people have been bringing up the vampires from New
for like
Orleans.
many years. The one,
New
yeah,
Orleans.
mostly New Orleans, but
It's like a supernatural. It's like Arizona. Arizona. One of our listener stories that DM'd us is they're from Arizona.
yeah,
And they mentioned that maybe we could do like an episode on Arizona. I feel like we can also do an episode on New Orleans just because of how much those two places just attract supernatural energies. So I'm going to be going into what a vampire is, the history of how vampires came to be in modern day era, and what the different types of vampires are. There are more than one type of vampire, especially since vampire is more of like a cultural aspect rather than just one definitive creature. But even with all of these different kinds of blood-sucking human-shaped mosquitoes lurking in the gothic aesthetics, I hear that in the microphone. I just hear. Some people are gonna really hate that. Stop.
num num num.
Nom 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 nom. Imagine a vampire sneaking into your house at night and he's in the
Num, num,
corners
num.
going "Meow, meow, meow." With all of these different types of blood-sucking human-shaped mosquitoes lurking in the gothic aesthetics. Stop laughing. Things that's making me laugh. I'm trying so hard to ignore you.
Continue.
This was supposed to be serious and spooky.
I know.
Vampires.
But hey, our listeners love it. Some of our listeners.
Our listeners are gonna be like, I came here for blood-sucking human mosquitoes, not whatever the fuck this is. Alrighty, well, before one of us starts simultaneously combusting, we're going to start off with what a vampire is because there's a lot of misconceptions. In folklore, there's all a bunch of different types, and commonly depicted, everyone knows the common Dracula and, Hotel Transylvania, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah,
He does
blah.
not say blah, blah, blah. In fact, just says because he's sucking on your blood. But typically, they're depicted as a humanoid fanged creature,
Yeah.
immortal, killed by sunlight, one stake to the heart, decapitation,
Just think of a
pale
bat.
skin, tall. Most Draculas are depicted as very tall creatures.
Yeah.
Big castle, Transylvanian accent. Those are the typical depictions of a vampire.
Now, I do have a question. Like,
Yeah,
you remember that one? What's his name? Vladimir?
Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler, yeah.
I'm actually gonna get into him.
Really?
Not into him, but like I'm gonna
Get into this.
I'm gonna get into
him.
his story. Yeah. But commonly depicted vampire in folklore, in media especially, is the whole Dracula shebang, right? Everyone knows the story of Dracula. However, once we get down into the history of how Dracula came to be,
Yeah.
and how modern day depictions of vampires have came to be, you're gonna have a whole new different light. And I'm gonna tell you this right now. He is not Adam Sandler from Hotel Transylvania. He is much darker being, and when I say he, I mean like all of the vampires that you can think of are a much darker being. But as you know, there is the common Dracula. Then there's Edward Cullen and Damon Salvatore, the former. They are just the start of these mythological beings, and now we're going to dive right into the real world of how the term vampire came to be. Countries from all around the world have feared the concept of the undead. So this isn't a new thing. This isn't like from the, I think it was like 1800, 1870 something. The Bram Stoker's Dracula. This isn't a new concept. The concept of somebody being undead, rising from the grave, immortal from the undead is not a new concept for a lot of countries. And it was actually feared ever since like the ancient Roman and ancient Greek area, especially ancient Egyptian.
Yeah.
Like it is not new for human beings to fear death. So it was kind of a common conception that when someone rises from the dead, not a good thing. You need to kill it. You really need to kill it. The concept of the term vampire, however, despite all of the other different countries, different variations of vampires, different variations of the undead, there's zombies, there's ghosts, ghouls, poltergeists, stuff like that. Vampire itself originated from Eastern Europe, specifically in the countries of Hungary, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania, the most common place to hold a vampire. However, these countries did not develop the word vampire until the 18th century, and the word vampire comes from the Slavic language. Now, let me tell you something. Real vampires depicted in Eastern and Western Europe, not hot. They're not attractive. They're not Edward Cullen. They're not Robert Pattinson, unfortunately. Even though Robert Pattinson wasn't really my type anyway. I was more Ian Somerhalder.
I mean, yeah.
I was more, who's the guy that played Jasper
Jasper?
from Twilight?
I can't remember his
I
name.
don't know his name. I liked him.
I know who you're talking
But,
about.
yeah. Do you want to know the common depiction of vampires from the undead in these Western European countries was?
What?
Bloated, swollen as fuck. And I'm not talking like strong build. I'm talking like their skin was swollen. They were purple and bruised all over, so rotting corpse with long nails and blood all across their faces due to them sucking the life out of you. Not in the good way. Yeah, not pretty. Not pretty. Probably
No.
bald too. And I like a guy who has hair. That was the common depiction of a vampire developed by Western and Eastern European countries. Now, like I said earlier, the concept of someone from the undead coming back to life and haunting the village is very feared by the people. And normally, say someone died in Romania, right?
Yeah.
Say directly after that, there was a lot of illness. There was a lot of like miscarriages were blamed. Anything evil you could think of, like crops dying or tuberculosis, like disease outbreaks. If somebody died right before that happened, they would blame it on them being a vampire. And the vampire would be the thing causing all of that havoc and evil in the village. So they would dig up the heavily protected grave. They would take the corpse, they would stake them through the heart, decapitate, burn the body, or sprinkle poppy seeds so that when the vampire body came back to its corpse, it would be too busy counting all the little poppy seeds off the ground. Because that's kind of a myth about vampires as well, is that if you spill poppy seeds, they have to count each seed
The one thing I
before they
do
can
know
get up.
is like, is it like fairies or a certain type of fairies?
It's fairies that if you spill sugar, they have to sit there and count
Or
every grain.
salt.
I think it's sugar.
Or rice. I think
There's so many mythological beings that if you spill something, you just have to pick shit up.
we should do that next. One of the episodes, fairies.
I'm Scottish. I definitely need to do a fairy episode. That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. So to put it more in chronological order, people in Western and Eastern European countries feared death so much that they blamed bad things happening in the village on the deceased people. So they would go re-kill that person, even though he's already dead, in order to try and prevent all of this bad stuff from happening. Now, I'm going to go into two very famous people who heavily influenced the characteristics and behaviors going into how their traits have developed. The first person is Elizabeth Bathory, who was a Hungarian countess. And what she would do is she would take her girl servants and torture and kill them. And she allegedly killed over 100 of her virgin girl servants. And here is where the vampiric tendencies come in. She would drink their blood to preserve her youth. Allegedly. Not fun. She's kind of a bitch. But yeah, she was very, very large person that created a link to the vampiric development. Now, I'm getting into your bestie, who you mentioned earlier, Vlad the Impaler.
I've heard so much about that. Like, Sam Colby went to his castle.
Yeah.
But also, there was stuff how, like, he literally impaled people from the bottom.
He did.
Through the mouth.
Yeah.
Like, up.
He's not a fun guy.
No.
I don't recommend going to poker with him. I don't recommend playing Scrabble. I don't recommend hanging out with him at all because he's dead. But yeah,
Or conjuring his ass.
don't do that.
Please
Don't be
don't.
stupid. Oh my god.
Don't
If you
be
do that,
stupid.
I'm going to find you, go to your house, call you stupid to your face, and then leave. Oh my god.
Stupid. Bye-bye.
You're stupid. Stupid. Anyway, Vlad the Impaler was nicknamed the Romanian Dracula, which, fun fact, his father, who was named Vlad II, was a part of the Council of Dragon, which is kind of like a military thing.
Yeah.
And they named Vlad III, his son, the Vampirian Dracula, because Dracula refers to the son of Dragul, which in Romanian translates to the son of dragon. So that's where the term Dracula came from. But like I said, he was heavily looked at by Bram Stokes, who created the novel Dracula, which later developed into that vintage movie. And he didn't appear very vampiric other than having a little bit of the accent. However, he was so brutal with his murders to the Ottoman Turks that people called him the Romanian Dracula because of how bloodthirsty this man was. And I'm not talking like he would drink the blood. I'm talking he needed to kill. Like it was bad. Like what he would do to the Ottoman Turks, which was his militia enemy, he would, like you said, take that wooden stake, pick up that person, stick them right onto the stake.
Basically.
From the bottom up.
Through their bum, through everything.
Bum to mouth. That's how he would stake them. He would go, yeah. Not fun.
If you want to, you might be traumatized. But if you want to, search up stuff.
Yeah.
About him.
But this happened in the 1500s is when he did all of this mess. Yeah. It's fucking crazy, dude. Like, yeah, these people do not joke around. Yeah. But
like, there's images of it supposedly how he would do it, like how it looked.
Yeah.
But like, if you were
don't look it up. If you're curious, go ahead. But you're
gonna get traumatized.
So, as you can tell, this happened, way back in the day, and a lot of the times people were just trying to come up with unexplainable experiences that happened, like that caused all of these diseases. Because back then, people didn't have medical textbooks or Safari or Google. They had superstition, panic, and a suspiciously pale neighbor that would stare at them unblinkingly. So you can see how the people, it is 100% human nature to just come up with these supernatural beings just because of something that they fear. Yeah. Like vampires have developed, but the fear of death developed with them. To sum up the history is vampires are beings of human manifestation to give a supernatural explanation for their sins, fears, and death. Whether vampires are real or not, you cannot sit there and deny the fact that that's kind of how humans cope with all the death and famine and the lot of miscarriages. I know in Romania, a lot of miscarriages, like they blamed that on vampires. So they would go to dig up the bodies, stake them, and leave. So yeah, that's the history of vampires. However, as I stated in the beginning, vampires do not end at just Dracula. A vampire isn't just a monster. It's humanity's fear wearing a human face. But here's the fun part. Not every vampire sparkles and sleeps in a coffin or looks like they belong in a gothic perfume commercial.
Yeah, not like the coffins they sleep in the Interview with the Vampire.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, diving right into the different types of vampires, there are very different types of vampires. I'm going to list the most common ones, or the most supernatural, if you will. In Eastern and Western European, countries like the Romania, Bulgaria, countries like that I stated previously, there is the classic vampire, which Dracula, which if I at the end of all of these, I ask the question, do I think they are real? Because this is based off of, as well, personal opinions and whether or not the classic vampires are real. What I say is go fuck around and find out. And let me know, because I am not going to be fucking with
That's
those.
if you survive.
Literally, if you survive. Let me know when you're going into that freaking castle. Text me when you go in, and then if I don't hear from you the next day, I'm just going to assume that you're dead. Now, moving on to the psychic and energy vampires, which I think is the more complex of the vampire group. They are supernatural entities or they could be human as well. I know some witches who identify as an energy vampire. They can't help it. It's just kind of what they do, where they drain the emotional/spiritual energy. So they feed off of everyone else's energy. which I like to think is just their version, is just a more spooky version to be called an extrovert.
Yeah.
The extroverts scare me. They actually do. Like, how can you gain energy from someone telling you to go fuck yourself? I don't know how they do that.
Yeah. I'm an ambivert. Depending on which people, I'm an extrovert. Like,
See,
but
I'm an introvert, but I do enjoy a good conversation. If I have a good conversation with somebody, I am going to gain energy from that. But regardless, if I do that too many times, I'm going to get drained. So
yeah,
yeah,
I'm the same
sometimes I
way.
feel like I'm just getting drained by energy vampires every single day at my work because why wouldn't I? But these psychic energy vampires, a lot of people suggest that they are just modern day paranormals, like ghosts, poltergeists, things like that.
Yeah.
Which I don't doubt at all because there are some entities out there that are spiritual and like spiritual vampires, which is why you need to have some spiritual words up. And like I said, they can either be spiritual or they can be human. Some humans don't even realize they're doing it. Like I said, extroverts. I'm not saying every extrovert is an energy vampire. I'm just saying it would give a hell of a good explanation. So, in some vampires don't want to drink your blood. They just want to drink your peace. Moving on to cultural vampires, which is everything before the Eastern and Western term for vampire came to be. Now, I'm going to go into the most famous one first, and then I will list some others afterwards. We have the Romanian folklore mythical creature called the Strigoi. This is what inspired the Romanian vampire to begin with. And this is an entity that can present human, but is typically just energy, kind of orbs in the air. They are the restless undead, considered restless undead, cursed souls, demonic entities, humans with supernatural traits. A lot of the ones who present human are rumored to have supernatural abilities like super strength, super speed, which is where all of the Vampire Diaries and Twilight
Yeah.
abilities come in, I feel like. They are very hard to kill also because they're either invisible or they're super, super fast. And that what they will do is they will drink your blood, spread illness, torment, and haunt, which is kind of the reason why the Romanian people were like, no, no more crops. My grandpa died from lung cancer. Holy shit. I gotta go re-kill this corpse in the graveyard. That was their belief because so many Western civilizations believed like they feared the dead so much that they thought that they would just come back just to mess with shit.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. But in China, they had the thing called a Jiangqi. I think it's called the Jiangqi. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. But he is normally an undead corpse that rises from the dead or rises from the grave.
Mhm.
He is wearing Qing Dynasty clothing. He drains the energy. He doesn't really drain blood, so he's more of a Strigoi, the Chinese version of a Strigoi. But he's also pretty fashionable because he literally just spawns into the world wearing royal clothing. Like he just spawns. But yeah, that is the Chinese version of a vampire. Moving on to Greece. Okay, Greece, ancient Greece version of vampires, fucking terrifying. Not the image, it's what they do.
What would they
Okay,
do?
they are called the Vrykolakas. I'm pronouncing that. I'm butchering all of these, by the way. I'm so sorry to anyone who is Chinese or Greece listening to this. I cannot pronounce any of these. This is an undead corpse that normally he normally eats flesh instead of blood, but he will ingest blood of a human and its energy. What this bitch will do is he will go up to your door at 3 a.m. and knock on it until you answer. So he'll be like those zombies in Minecraft just going, hey, hey. That's what this thing will be doing. Going up, knocking on it. And if you answer the door too quickly at like 3 to 4 in the morning, it will eat you. You will be dead. You will not witness the sunrise. But yeah, scary as fuck. I don't want this guy at poker night. But yeah, those are some of the more scarier different versions of the word vampire. And when you go back and you listen to all these different myths about vampires, keep these in mind because vampires are not just flesh, bone, and sparkly skin occasionally. They're scary, ugly, and you should not invite them in.
No, the vampire cannot come in your home unless you invite them in. And once you invite them in, you're
That's a
fucked.
Dracula thing too.
Really.
That's a Dracula thing. If they say, "Can I come in?" you say no because that is giving that vampire permission to invade your energy.
Be very careful.
Yeah. Whether or not you believe in these lovely creatures, you are about to hear some spooky tales about some vampiric stories centered around New Orleans, as well as some other personal experiences. But I think there's one thing all of us can agree on. It's that the most common and real vampires of them all will always be the fear that evolves from humanity.
Now, I have 6 stories I found, and I also found an experience on Reddit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the shoemaker of Breslau, or Breslau, Breslau, this is circa 1591.
That's old.
I know.
So what was the Great Depression like? I'm asking you because you're older than me.
21. I was born in '04. You were born in '05. You weren't born too long after me. Now, I'm going to read off basically what it's saying. The story might sound like cobblers, but it is apparently a real incident that took place in modern day Wrocław, Poland. Uroclaw. Basically, yeah. In September 1591, a shoemaker named Winritrus cut his own throat. That guy was buried. I'm not gonna say his name because it's kind of, but he was buried the day after his death, and it wasn't long before his ghost was spotted walking around the town. The dead shoemaker was also reportedly getting into bed with people at night, gripping their arms and legs so firmly that he left bruises in the shape of fingers on their bodies.
That's mean to put him in the corner.
Yeah.
Put the shoemaker in the corner.
Into the corner. In the corner. After about 7 months, the local people, convinced they had a vampire on their hands, exhumed his body and found that it looked fresh and complete, with the skin tight like a drum. There was a rose-shaped mole on his foot, which was suspected of being a witch's mark. The body was taken out and reburied under some gallows.
That was another thing. Like, a lot of people believe these creatures were like cursed by witches or working with the devil or some sort of demonic energy, which is why they were causing so much havoc in the village.
Like maybe like a witch put a hex on them, and
a lot of modern day depictions, like in media and stuff, like make vampires either work closely with witches or they make them involved with them. Which, as a witch, I can attest, I don't fuck with those things.
However, when the undead, Winritrus, continued to terrorize the town, the body was brought up again and dismembered. Those who did the butchering remarked that his heart looked as good as that of a freshly slaughtered calf. Next, all the bits of the bootmaker were burnt, and the ashes were cast into the river.
So they killed them the traditional, like the way a traditional Dracula would be killed.
Basically, yeah. No. Number 2, the Prowler of Petition in 1592. This was a year later.
Bam.
The first one was 1591. This one's 1592. Just a year later, in the town not too far from Breslau, a local dignitary named Johannes Kunze was severely injured one day after being kicked in the privates, and possibly the head too, by a lusty gelding.
Owie.
After this, the wounded cunt, it's literally spelled Cuntze.
Oh my god.
I know. Began showing signs of delirium, leading to rumors that he was in league with the devil. While on his deathbed, Black Cat burst into the room and pounced on the dying alderman. The frantic feline scratched Kunt's face to shreds. Very soon after his burial, reports were going around the town that he had returned from the dead and was causing mischief. Hoof marks would show up in the snow after the vampire was spotted, and the fiend was accused of sexually assaulting a woman and tormenting the local vicar by squeezing him when he was in bed.
What do you mean by squeezing him?
I don't know. I didn't really specify.
I think that's a good thing.
In July 1592, after 5 months of terror by the undead cunts, the townsfolk finally dug up the corpse. Cunt's body showed no signs of decomposition, and when his leg was cut with a blade, fresh blood poured out. The body was removed, dismembered, and burnt. Now, this one, number 3, was in 1725. It was the peasant vampire.
Bow down, peasant.
I got the voice down.
I love the way you say it.
Yeah. One day in 1725, in a small village of Kislavio in eastern Serbia,
Serbia, that was one of the countries that I listed.
a local peasant named Petar Blagojevic,
Petar?
Petar, was buried in the village churchyard with the familiar ceremony of a Catholic funeral. Within 9 days of Petar being laid to rest, 9 locals had gone from healthy to dead. From young to old, they all showed signs of nervous exhaustion. Every one of those 9 people stated outright on their deathbeds that Petar was the sole reason they were dying. They all claimed that he had come into their beds at night as a vampire, sat on them, and then sucked from their strength.
Imagine suffocating someone by sitting on them and then sucked out their blood. That's like every single guy's dream when they have a gothic girlfriend.
It was also said that, Petar, after his death, went to his old family home and murdered his son by drinking his blood. When Petar's grave was opened in the presence of the whole village, the hair, nails, and beard had grown, and fresh blood was seen in the mouth. The body then taken out, a sharp wooden stake was driven through Petar's body. At this, blood was seen to spurt from his mouth and nose.
Huh. That probably did have some sort of supernatural thing going on with it. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing when people just blame bad shit that's happened in the village on the dead,
Yeah.
and that energy gets turned into some sort of egregore or shigori. But it's another thing when there's actual physical evidence to back it up instead of just invisible energy throwing shit across the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, number 4. The monster of Menveda. Yeah, Menveda. 1726 to 1732. Arnold Powell. He was a young Serbian soldier who, in about 1725, had returned to his home village of Menveda after a tour of duty in Greece. Powell told his wife to be that while serving in Greece, he'd been attacked by a vampire, but he wasn't too worried about turning into a vampire himself because he'd found the beast's grave and buried it. However, a little while later, he was climbing up onto a hay wagon when he lost his footing, broke his neck, and died several days later.
Holy shit. That's just bad luck.
Yeah, bad luck. It wasn't long after he was buried that villagers began to see him wandering about at night.
Oh,
Some even had dreams where he visited them while they were in bed, and the next day they'd feel physically drained and weakened by something unaccountable.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the only thing that nobody ever went into any detail about in any sort of like vampiric research that I have found, and
Yeah.
you can't just look this up, like you will not find anything besides for like TV shows, is how you get turned. Like in Vampire Diaries, you have to die with the blood of a vampire in your system. In Dracula, you just have to be bit.
One of them you can control the venom.
Something like that, I think. But based off of that circumstance, it seems like you have to be bit or have like some sort of experience like that and then die, and then you'll be brought back, which supports the whole fear of the undead in all of those European countries.
Yeah. Now, several weeks after these initial reports, numerous mysterious deaths started occurring in the village. Some of these unexplained sudden fatalities were people who were reported dreaming about Powell visiting them. Powell's grave was opened up. His body was covered in garlic and a stake driven through his heart. But Powell's curse did not stop there. 6 years later, an epidemic of vampirism hit the same village, with multiple people joining the ranks of the undead. 14 corpses were exhumed from the village graveyard and examined, with a medical report of the findings signed by Austrian doctors and army officers. 12 of the bodies were found to be unmistakably in the vampire condition.
I wonder if he was creating some sort of army or community.
Maybe,
Possibly. But
possibly.
I also wonder, since he's making people have these dreams of him and feeling physically and mentally drained, I wonder if there's some sort of combination between classic vampire and psychic vampire.
Maybe.
Like, I wonder if the people who are classic vampires and humanoid vampires, I wonder if they also have the abilities, like supernatural abilities, to be a psychic vampire. I mean, that would make sense considering,
Yeah,
like, I mean, they're supernatural beings to begin with.
yeah.
I really want to, like, no pun intended this time. I want to interview a vampire. As a psychology major, I'm like itching to figure it out.
Yeah, but,
I know.
don't wish for things you
Also,
don't.
back on the garlic thing, garlic is also used as a very protective herb in witchcraft. So,
Eat a lot of pizza.
eat a lot of pizza.
Now, number 5, Dracula's Bride. Now, I will say it started in 1913,
Hmm.
but it also was I know it was like years and years ago, but it's somewhat recent. 1993. The year of this is 1913 and 1993.
God damn.
In between that range, in Pisco, Peru, late on the night of June 8th, 1993, 1,000 people stood waiting, some nervous, some excited, by the grave of Sarah Ellen Roberts, a woman the press dubbed Dracula's Bride. The story goes that Sarah, born in Blackburn in 1872, was accused of murder and witchcraft and suspected of being a vampire. As punishment, on June 9th, 1913, she was chained up, nailed shut inside a lead-lined coffin, and left to die. With burial in England having then been refused, according to the legend, it is said that Sarah's husband roamed the world for 4 years before finally finding a resting place for her in Peru. The tale then says that after her burial, the people of Pisco were horrified to learn that before she was sealed shut in her coffin, the vampire promised to return to seek vengeance in 80 years. 80 years.
That would check out, like 1913 to
1993.
1993. Yeah.
As midnight struck in Pisco on June 9th, 1993, the assembled rabble was left disappointed. The Blackburn vampire failed to rise, with local witch doctors claiming victory after having doused her grave with holy water.
Yeah, I mean, gotta take extra precautions. Normally, when someone says they're gonna come back in a certain amount of time, they're gonna come back. Like, it's
Yeah,
kind of like a
don't like,
spiritual contract when you say
yeah,
that.
like, you'll be like, no, you won't. You're not.
Yes, they will. Which is odd that she specifically chose 80 years. Why do people choose
Yeah,
specifically 50, 60, 70, 80 years? Like, why?
because by that time, no
Maybe
one
they'll
that
be
could know
dead.
her, yeah, they'd be dead.
I
Nobody
mean, that
really
makes
knew
sense.
about her. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Now, number 6, the Coventry Street Vampire, 1922. This was in London. At around 6 a.m. on Sunday, April 16th, 1922, a man walking around along a deserted Coventry Street in London suddenly felt the presence of a man or thing grab a hold of him tightly, sink its teeth into his neck, and draw blood out. The next thing he knew, he was in Charing Cross Hospital being told by bemused doctors that his neck had been punctured by something resembling a long, thin spike.
Owie.
Now, astonishingly, the same thing happened to 2 more unsuspected victims later that day, both in the same spot as the first. The police and Londoners were baffled, and no suspect was ever identified. An off duty policeman in a pub was apparently overheard saying that the police had hired a vampire hunter. This modern day Van Helsing supposedly tracked the monster down to Highgate Cemetery and then finished it off in the traditional way by opening up its coffin and driving a stake through its heart. More intriguing still was an incident that occurred around the same time in Drayton, about 50 miles west of Coventry Street. On the night of the full moon, several local people reported seeing a huge bat with a 6-foot wingspan flying around the churchyard.
Goddamn.
Now, ducking in and out of graves and mausoleums, the police went to the scene and spotted the creature, which screamed and flew away. It is not known whether these two incidents were connected, but an old man in West Drayton remarked at the time that a vampire had been active there some 30 years before murdering a local woman by biting her neck and draining her blood. April 1922, nothing more was heard of either the West Drayton bat or the Coventry Street vampire. Like nothing.
Damn.
Like it just happened and then
Which is interesting.
Okay, so the experience was years ago my ex and I were in New Orleans when it started pouring really hard. We were walking around looking for one of those cemetery tours. Couldn't find it and we were soaked. We found this beautiful mansion style house and stood there because the rain wasn't falling as hard there. The door then opened and this nice, eccentric looking man offered to let us inside. We looked at each other and agreed to go inside. The mansion was amazing and very gothic. I stood at the doorway and looked up the beautiful stairs, and there was even a gorgeous black cat just sitting there staring at us from a banister.
Uh-oh.
You know what they say about black cats?
Actually, some folklore said that black cats are good luck. However,
I know. Some say they're good luck, some say they're bad luck. It just depends on,
based on one of your stories from earlier, I'm gonna say they're pretty common with vampires and not common with witches, like a lot of people think.
So if you see a vampire, well, not vampire. If you see a black cat,
Vampire.
there may be a vampire nearby. Or maybe
Vampire.
you are the vampire.
Yeah, maybe you are.
Maybe.
Imagine a vampire
Maybe.
walking down. You look at a vampire, you just go, I know you're a vampire. They're just gonna be like, no, you are. Imagine being gaslit by a vampire.
No, like they'll say, and
or imagine they say, see you tonight, and I'm gonna be like, take me out to dinner first.
Take me out to dinner first. We were in awe. The man and my boyfriend began to talk and talk, and I just looked around everywhere. The man was super nice to us the entire time. He had long black hair and was dressed eccentrically. I could feel there was something off or different about him, but I couldn't put my finger on what it could be. When I looked at an office next to the front room, I could see stacks and stacks of money, I wish,
Yeah.
that filled this large desk up. It was just there, in plain sight. My boyfriend at the time was a big chatterbox, so I was able to observe the place a bit with my eyes. We left when the rain stopped pouring as much and said our goodbyes. Now, I've always been interested in ghost stories and true hauntings, etc. So months later, I ordered a book about New Orleans hauntings off of Amazon. I was reading the book one day when lo and behold, there in front of me was a picture of the man in that mansion. It also had a picture of his wife, who we hadn't met that day. It said they were self-proclaimed vampires. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I hadn't met him in person. No wonder he wasn't scared of us stealing that money he had piled all over his desk for all to see.
What if
No,
it was a test? Like, if you took the
maybe.
money, I kill you, but if you don't, then you're cool and I leave you alone.
Yeah. Like
Because I would
maybe
not
test
trust.
like greedy, like if you're greedy and you steal that money.
Yeah. There's also depictions of vampires being manifestations of human sin, like demons.
Like if you
So,
like greed and all that
yeah,
stuff,
like
you do
the seven
anything.
deadly sins. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely somewhere to go to visit. I kind of wanted to add the Coffin Girls into the ending, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like it's the most pronounced or infamous thing about vampires in New Orleans.
Yeah.
In the 1720s, there's this thing called the Coffin Girls. The French government sent young, respectable orphan women to colonial New Orleans to marry early settlers. They were provided with dowries and belongings packed in small coffin-shaped wooden trunks called casquettes in French. Because of these chests, the women became known in American folklore as the Casket Girls. The sinister reputation of the Casket Girl stems from a blend of folklore and misinterpretation. However, the theory is that local lore suggests that the women brought vampires from Europe in their chests, or that the girls themselves were the undead. Upon arrival, the girls were housed by the Ursuline nuns. According to the myth, the nuns discovered the women were vampires, moved their chests into the third floor attic, and sealed the shutters with silver nails blessed by the Pope to trap them. To this day, the third floor shutters on the old Ursuline convent remained famously boarded up with ghost stories claiming that any attempt to open them will unleash the vampires. Now, from blood-drinking monsters lurking in the ancient shadows to the tragic immortals woven through cultures across the world, vampires remind us that sometimes the things that we fear most never truly stay dead. So lock your windows, keep the garlic close, and try not to invite anything inside, because next episode, we're stepping away from creatures of the night and into a house where the evil doesn't knock first. The infamous Sally House.
Ooh.
Ooh. That's going to be a standalone episode, and it's going to be really, really fun to film.
Yes.
It's going to be insanely, insanely fun to film. But as always, you can hit us up at Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and Spotify at There's a Ghost in My Closet.
Yeah.
As well as you can email us any personal stories that you may have at There's a Ghost in My Closet.
Or anything you recommend.
Exactly. Yeah. Any suggestions? We will take any suggestions.
Yes.
At There's a Ghost in My Closet at gmail.com.
Yes.
But if you can't think of anything else to add,
don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid like normal. Don't be stupid.
Try and, want to get bit by a vampire and become immortal. Because,
yeah, no matter how sexy you think it is, just because some of you might have a biting kink, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
As normal, I'm Alice.
I'm Carly.
And we'll throw you in the next one.
Stay
spoopy!